Dirty Work Inc. by Joshua Waggoner. I'm Louis. Let's go ahead and get this out of the way. I'm a criminal. I'm a goon, a thug, muscle for hire, a street-level blunt instrument for the New York mob. I'm also in LA. Why? I'm getting to that. I'm also still in the Mafia. Kinda. Just not the good fella kind. What do I mean by that? Why am I telling you all this? Mind your business, that's why. What's with all the questions? Wait for me to finish and you'll know. So sit down, shut up and listen. So this whole thing started when I got a call to find some little prick who owed the wrong people the right amount of money. And by the right amount of money, I mean the right amount that they wanted me to make sure he didn't end up owing anyone else any more money. Ever. Easy enough. I do it all the time. Some asshole borrows money from people they shouldn't have borrowed it from. The person decided that they weren't going to ever get it back. And me, or someone like me who don't much care for the sanctity of human life, gets called in to make a gruesome example out of them. That is not my entire job description, but that's part of it. So I go to whack the little prick. Problem was, I tracked down the wrong prick all the way from New York to LA. Yeah, not the crowning achievement in my career, I will admit. But the guy looked like him. He talked like him. He acted like a prick. A contact of mine even said he seemed like he was running from someone. What was I supposed to think? So I calls the boss and tell him I fucked up. And he told me that if I wanted to show my face in New York again, he'd have to beat me half to death, and then drown the rest of the way upside down in a bucket of piss. That's about the moment I realized LA was kinda nice that time of year. So I'm in LA, which for those of you who don't know is fucking expensive. Naturally, I needed some kind of income because, call me crazy, I find the idea of sleeping in a box in the street absolutely fucking repulsive. So I try to get a legit job, turn over a new leaf. As it so happens, that leaf had "Go fuck yourself" written on the other side. You see, I got a record. Surprise, surprise. And not like a Guinness record neither. And also not the stay 500 feet away from a school kind, but not the kind that makes people excited about hiring you. Back to the old leaf it is. I started trolling the alleyways trying to spot some shady dealings, make the right friends in the wrong places, or the wrong friends in the right places. You'll be the judge. Anyway, one night I finally luck out. I round the corner to an alley and catch sign of someone making a handoff to a guy on a bike. We used to use couriers in New York to get drugs and other less than legal miscellanea quick around the city. So I camp out at one end of the alley and wait. I didn't knock because sometimes if you knock the wrong way around, a buckshot is likely to do the answering. And having been shot, I'm here to tell you it's an experience that I would describe as less than enjoyable. So again, I wait. After a few hours, the door opens up and someone walks out. "Yo!" I calls to him. To which he responds with a polite, "The fuck you want?" A Jersey accent. Nobody's perfect. Easy there, pal. I'm looking for work. And you looks like you got the kind of work I'm good at. I tell the guy. Piss you off. He says he's about to turn and walk the other way. But I stop him. Hold up. Whatever you got, I can handle. Just give me a shot. I'm not saying I was begging, but no was not an answer I was willing to accept at the time. The jackass starts laughing in my face. Whatever I got you can handle? He asked me, still kinda laughing. I said I can handle it. I can fucking handle it, I says to the guy. So he walks over and puts his hand on my shoulder. You got a winning attitude, I like that. Follow me. I think I got something for you. He tells me, still chuckling as he leads me over to the rusty door that's got "fuck off" keyed into it. What's your name, kid? Louis, I answered. Louis, my name's Mark. Louis, tell me, have you got a strong stomach? Yeah, I ain't squeamish or nothing. Get seasick a little, but that's about it, I told him. Seasick, you say? Mark said with his dickish fucking smile on his face. Well, you don't gotta worry about no seasickness around here. He kept talking as he opened the door to the place and walked me in with him. Hey man, thanks for this opportunity. I'm not gonna let you... I'm in the wrong fucking place. I said against my will once I got a look around. The whole place was a gory goddamn nightmare. There were human limbs and organs and meat every fucking where. Yo, hey, something wrong, Louie? You getting seasick over there? Mark asked, keeping that smile strong on his face. Is that a fucking kid? Tell me that's not a fucking kid over there on that table. I said, shaking my finger in the direction of what looked like a 10 or 11-year-old girl. Her lifeless eyes gazing up to me in fluorescent lights, both her legs missing and her chest open wide. All the ribs broke out the wrong way and her organs gone. Why is there a little girl on that table and why is she like that? Don't get squeamish on me now, Louie. You still got work to do, he said, taking me by the shoulder and leading me deeper into the darker parts of the building. You know, I'm starting to have second thought. I tried to say, but he starts to open another door to the other side of the place. Come on, through here, he said, not wanting to disobey. I followed his instructions. We walked down this longish hallway until we got to another door on the left side of the far end, which he opens and points into. So I go inside. Then Mark walks in behind me and flicks the lights on. I catch myself standing in a morgue. Okay, come here. Pay attention. See the shit on the bottom of their foot? He asked me after I pulled open one of the drawers with a body in it. If there's something there, that means they're either donated to science, they're gonna be cremated, and won't nobody know the difference. Or they didn't have nobody that gave a fuck when they died. That means we can do with them as we so choose. You following me? I think so. Right, good. So a line means it's fresh. A day or two at most. A check means they died somewhere fancy like a hospital and they got refrigerated pretty quick. We like these the best. A circle means they ain't so fresh and they weren't cooled down quick. They're usually ones that get found a few days later or something. Usually when somebody starts to notice the smell. We got a few customers who like these, but for the most part we don't use these ones too often. You still with me? Yeah. Outstanding. So what you're gonna do is we need 2 ones with the checks tonight. You're gonna find 2 of those, put them on the cart over there, wheel them back to the shop, and then we'll tell you what to do after that. Mark instructs to me. So I do what he tells me. He leaves me and I start rifling through the drawers until I find a couple of the right ones, drag them to the cart, and bring them back to the other building. Okay, what now? I asked the guy, pushing the cart into the room, trying as hard as I can not to look at the little girl's butchered carcass again. What's your deal? Mark asked. I don't do kids, man. I just don't. Women is one thing. If they're an adult, sometimes a bitch has it coming. That's just how it is sometimes. But kids ain't done nothing wrong to no one, I says to him. Yeah, well, shit happens to everyone. Not just bad people like us. Get used to it. Pull the card over here and take this. He said, handing me a paper bag. What's this? Drugs. You're gonna take them to this address. You're gonna give them to the people there. Then you're gonna take the money they give you, and then you're gonna come back here with the money. He instructed as he wrote the address down on a piece of notebook paper. Right. Now get the fuck out of here. What kind of drugs? Hey, am I paying you to ask questions or do work? I don't know. Am I getting paid? If you don't get the fuck out of here! He yelled, kicking the door open and throwing me out. So I'm stumbling around these back alleys looking for some joint called Woodhaven Apartments. Took me about 20 minutes, but I finally find the place and get to the right room. So if I follow the instructions on the paper and knock twice, pause, knock once, pause, and knock twice again. A few seconds later, the door opens up and some shady guy sticks his head out. I wasn't sure, but I could have swore the guy's eyes flashed yellow for a second or two. What? The occupant snapped at me. Yeah, Mark sent me. Said to give this to you. I explained, holding up the bag. Nice! He shouted, snatching the bag out of my hand and slammed the door in my face. Yo! Mark said you got the money I'm supposed to get! Hey! I yelled, kicking at the bottom of the door until someone else inside finally snatched it open. Here, get lost. He said, shoving the bag back into my hand, now filled with a familiar texture of cash, before slamming the door in my face again. You know, your manners could use some work, pal. I yelled through the door before realizing Mark didn't tell me how much was supposed to be in the bag, so I couldn't count it to make sure. So I make my way back to Mark and hand him the bag as soon as I get there. You didn't say how much it was supposed to be, so I couldn't count it before I left, I tells him. Don't worry about it. He said, opening the sack and pulling out the cash. Those mosquitoes don't got the balls to He stopped mid-sentence and got serious real quick. What is this? Whoa, what are you talking about? What's what? I asked, kind of worried now. Where's the rest of it? Day goddamn one, and you're already skimming off the top? He screamed, jumping out of the chair and jamming a pistol in my face. Jesus, I didn't take any of it! I swear to God! Don't fucking lie to me, you little bastard! He yelled, twisting the muzzle into my temple. I could see his fingers start to tighten around the trigger. Hey, easy! I didn't take your shit! What do you want me to do? Bend over and spread my cheeks? I said I don't got it. I don't got it! After thinking for a second, he put down the gun on the table, pulled out his phone and made a call. I heard it ring for a few seconds over the speaker before somebody picked up. Before they had a chance to answer, he was already yelling. What the hell do you think you sons of bitches are doing? You think you're gonna start shortchanging me? You can't just start paying us what you think we deserve. The only response from the other end was just a bunch of people laughing into the phone, which was, as you can imagine, not going over very well towards Mark's mood. Listen here, you cactus-tongued cocksuckers. Click. Oh, you buck-tooth fuck! He bellowed as they hung up on him, before angrily picking up the phone, calling a different contact and holding it up to his ear. Hey, Johnny, sorry, hey. Those assholes in Woodhaven just shortchanged us. Yeah. No, I sent this new guy who came sniffing around for work. I know. I didn't think he'd come back either. Hey, I'm about to call him next. You call Chris and meet me here. Okay, see you in a few. What's going on? I asked once he hung up. We're about to do some dirt, he told me as he was making his last call. Hey, Muscles. We gotta bust some heads, Woodhaven. Meet us there at 20. This all necessary just to bump some junkies? I asked. But he don't answer. He just pushes me out the door, grabs a black derby hat, and puts it on as he locks the door behind him. You see that black van down there? The one that make you real nervous if you was a lady walking home by yourself? Get in, he told me as another car rolled up behind it. A few minutes later, we're parked out in front of the Woodhaven building. What are we waiting for again? How about you just shut up for a minute? Mark answered, looking around for whoever's supposed to be coming. There he is, he said a few minutes later as a large truck pulled up. Then this big-ass Asian guy in a yellow tank top gets out. Holy shit, that guy's huge, I said without thinking as he pulled some kind of big case out of the bed of the truck and walked over to the van. Then without saying a word, Mark got out alongside the two guys in the car and followed them into the building. This the one? The Asian guy asked once we were in front of the apartment from before. Mark nodded his head and the guy asked, All of them? Yeah, I don't think we got any business left with these ones. Keep it quiet, he added while the guy opened up the case and took out what looked like some kind of big meat cleaver that was almost as tall as him. Hold this, the Asian guy told me as he handed me the case. Then the guy, he just kicked the door down, broke the damn thing in half, and ran inside. The rest of us waited out in the hallway as we heard screams of all kinds of commotion from inside. Glass breaking, gunfire, shit hitting the floor, and then suddenly something dragging itself out the door. The face was warped and messed up. Its front teeth were just two sharp, white triangles that I could see as it screamed and cried trying to get out of the apartment before it was snatched back inside. Then, the screaming finally stopped. Yeah, quiet as a fucking church mouse, Mark said as he stepped inside over all the bodies. Hey, new guy, go find the money. No, hold up! You're not just gonna pretend I didn't just see what I saw. What the hell was that? I shouted at him. Jesus, what is that? I screamed, almost stepping over his severed head. I'd seen the others before, but this one, it looked like the thing that had tried to crawl out the door, but its tongue was hanging out and open. The end of it was open, and the top half had all these blobs coming out of it. What, you never seen a vampire before? I thought you said you could handle whatever, he said, kicking the head across the room. Now go find the money. I wasn't in a position to make demands, so I started looking through the apartment all the usual places. Couch cushions on a couch now completely cut in half, cabinets, water tank on the toilet. I looked everywhere I could think of as I wandered around the carnage. Then I walked into one of the bedrooms. I didn't find the money, but I did find some spun-out woman laying on the bed, only about half conscious. Hey, yo, I didn't find the money, but there's a lady in here, I called out to the rest of the guys. Can't believe these broke pieces of shit. Oh, hey, what do you know? There really is some broad in here, walking in behind me. Okay, so we can make this work. Hey, Chris, Johnny, come get this girl out to the van, he said whilst he made the call. I got something you fellas might want. Female, right about where you want her. Could be there in 15. Okay, see you there. Come on, Louie. Right, Louie. We got another errand to run before we call it a night, he said, leading me back through the door. Watch your step, there's someone's right arm. 15 minutes later, me and Mark are walking this girl up a flight of steps at a different apartment building. She's apparently in worse shape than the last one. A task in that she could barely even stand with both of us helping. We stopped at the front door. I assumed he meant to, then knocked. It's me, Mark shouted. Then it swung open and a guy with a ratty white shirt stepped out. Oh, nice. Yeah, she's great, he said as he excitedly looked her over. How much you say again? 1,000? I didn't, and that's 1,500. And don't you bitch about it. Look at her. She's in decent condition. No unwanted fluids on or in her. Not too roughed up, seasoned to perfection, and she don't look half bad. 1,500, or I call someone else. No, that's good. 15's good. The guy snapped, pulling out a wad of cash and counting out the right amount before giving it to Mark. And then, just as the guy took the woman's arm and pulled her inside, I could see a brief second her eyes started to focus, and she realized what was happening. And then I noticed the yellow flash in the man's eyes as the door creaked closed. A sharp scream broke the quiet for a second whilst we walked back down the stairs, but it was cut short halfway through. I didn't hear anything else after that until we got back into the van with Mark. Here, that's for you, he said, handing me 500 out of the money we just got. We'll be short 1,000, so that's yours for the night. You come back tomorrow, we'll find more stuff to keep you busy. We gotta go collect some protection money at this little goblin fighting joint downtown. We could use an extra goon. So, you're telling me that all this fairy tale vampires and goblins and boogeymen and all that shit is real? I asked, nervously trying to choke down my weird feeling in my stomach. Are you still on that shit? Do you really need more convincing? Yeah, most of that shit is real, and we run the rackets that involve them. What about that is still fuzzy to you? Look, do you want the job or don't you? And that was my first day in the paranormal mafia. But remember, you didn't hear it from me. Back for more, huh? I can see how this situation might provoke some curiosity. So I guess I'll tell you about the second day. 'Cause that's where things start to get crazy. Charlie, please. Please. Get them to let me back in New York. Because the guys over here, they ain't running the normal kind of racket we do. There's monsters over here. No, I don't mean they're really bad, but Charlie! Son of a bitch hung up on me! About that time, before I had a chance to throw my phone through the wall, I got a knock at my door. Holy shit, it wasn't kidding. This place is a dump. Mark insulted as he pushed his way into the admittedly piss-poor dwelling. Why are you here? I asked nervously as he looked around the place. I was about to ask you the same thing, he answered, picking at a piece of flaking paint on the wall. It was something I could afford in a place I couldn't afford nothing. Plus it just changed ownership and the girl that bought it don't have a clue what she's doing. Didn't even think to ask for a security deposit or nothing. I figure she's probably good for forgetting the rent every now and then, if nothing else. Also was already here when I decided to stay in LA for a while. It is what it is, I explained. Yeah, whatever, I don't actually care. Anyway, get ready. We got a thing at the goblin fights. I'll be in the van, don't make me wait. Okay, yeah, about that. What the hell even is that? It's like cockfighting, but they give them little knives, sometimes tiny clubs or something, and just let them go at it. Which reminds me, don't want anything too nice. The blood gets just everywhere. This way, Mark said, stepping out of the van. We were in front of the rundown warehouse on the edge of the city. The sun was just starting to set about the time we got out and head down to the entrance and the lights came on. Let's try and make this quick before everyone starts showing up. Right after he says that, the first cars start pulling up behind us. Most of the time someone got out in the back seat and the driver left as they followed us inside. The first few looked pretty normal, like regular people. Well, there was the occasional creepy fuck that just popped up and made me kinda nervous. Hey Danny, it's that time again, Mark said to some thing with goat horns on its head, who was sitting at a desk nestled between the wall and a caged off ring with hay on the floor. Oh, hey, Mark. The goat guy answered, kinda baying like a goat as he spoke. I got some bad news. It better be that your speech therapy course hasn't came in the mail yet, because you know that shit bugs the fuck out of me. I know it ain't about my money. Things been slow lately, Mark. The whole situation you guys had going on scared a lot of the regulars anyway. Danny explained, sounding like he was trying to choke back that sound. Then Mark suddenly reached across the desk, grabbed Danny by one of his horns, and snatched him across it. Do I look like I got the time here to explain that ain't none of my fucking problem? He said before pushing him back to his seat. Listen, Danny tried to say, and then he was stopped. He wasn't even paying attention to Mark anymore, but was looking over his shoulder at something behind him, dead terrified by the looks of it. I turned to check it out and it was just some woman. I mean, she looked like she had some kind of prissy attitude, but that was it. Only thing that stood out was what she was wearing. She was all in black. Black t-shirt, black cargo pants, black boots. But the pants and shirt had some kind of golden trim on them. Really weird looking, but I didn't think too much of it at the time. Apparently everyone else did, because I heard every asshole in the vicinity pucker up at once. I didn't do it, whatever it is, Danny shouted as she walked away. Shut up, dumbass. I'm not here for you, she said, turning to Mark. Me? What the fuck did I do? Mark said, clearly scared for the first time since I met him. Hey, you, Louie. Ever seen a goblin fight? You should go over there and check it out, he said, hitting that I'd best fuck off for a little while. So I walked over to the cage where they were getting ready to start things up. What's your bet, Chief? Some ghoulish looking thing asked me next to the ring. Oh, no, I'm not, I was about to say, but then paused for a second as I got a look at the two ballistic, snarling creatures they had getting ready to toss inside. What odds you got? I asked after a few seconds. Got 5-1 on the red, he said, pointing to the smaller of the two. I looked for a second and asked, you saying you got 5-1 odds on that one? Pointing to the smaller one of the two with the red kennel type thing. Anyone ever fought here before? Nah, that one's owner just got here from upstate this morning, the bookie answered. So it took a second, and after noticing that even though it was smaller, it had scars all over it, and was a lot nastier looking than the bigger one, who seemed more concerned with escaping than fighting. Yeah, I'll take that action. Put me in for 300 on red to win, I told him whilst I checked over my shoulder to see how the conversation was going. Mark had his hands up and looked like he was trying to convince the lady or something. I turned back around when I heard the bell ring and the kennel doors slide open. My heart sank when I realized that they gave the bigger one some kind of club with a few nails stuck through it, and it gave him the one I bet on absolutely fucking nothing. So the big one comes out and starts swinging for the fences, and he has the little one on the ropes right from the start. And not ready to lose my money so easily, I slide the knife out of my pocket, flick it open, drop it, use my foot to low-key kick it under the fencing. The little one, luckily enough, stepped on it as it was backing up. and soon as it noticed, it scooped it up and dove straight forward. 4 or 5 seconds later, the big one is a bloody twitching mess, and the little one was darting around the cage looking for who's next. It took 3, let's call them guys with nets and cattle prods to get it back in its kennel again. And that's saying something for something that was only about 1.5 feet tall. "Thank you, sir," I said to the bookie, handing him my ticket and snatching my money out of his hand. After that, I noticed that the woman was leaving, so I walks back over to Mark and Danny, the goat guy. "Look, here's all of it. Just leave. I don't need you to bring that kind of heat around here," Danny shouted, tossing several stacks of cash on the table. "You ready?" Mark asked me as he picked up the money. As we walked back to the van, I noticed a small group disperse, leaving the body and a kennel behind them. "Wait a sec, I'll be right back," I told Mark as I jogged over to see what was going on. Once I got there, I recognized that it was one of the guys who was standing next to me at the fight. So I leaned down and looked inside the cage. It was the little guy I bet on. "Yo," I whispered. Damn, I guess they killed the poor bastard because they thought he tossed a knife in. As I said that, something struck out of one of the slats of the kennel. It was my pocket knife. "Oh, hey, little guy, you still alive in there?" I asked, taking the knife back. "The fuck is that?" Mark asked whilst I sat the kennel in the back of the van. "I couldn't leave the poor guy," I shrugged. "It'd eat at my conscience. What the fuck are you gonna do with a goblin?" "I ain't thought that far, okay? Look, I ain't empathetic too often, so can you just let me do this?" I asked. "Whatever, if it bites your dick off, don't blame me." Do they do that? Do goblins bite dicks? No, seriously, do goblins bite people in the dick? Okay, look. I'm gonna let yous out. But you gotta promise not to bite my dick off, cause Mark got me freaking the fuck out about it now, I told the suspiciously calm monster in the back of the van. "Here we go. Ready? Set?" And it popped the latch. "Ah, my dick!" I freaked out for a second, covering my groin as it shot straight out and up my right leg. But then to my surprise, it kept going and perched itself on my shoulder. "Oh, fuck me," Mark said, walking back outside from the Dirty Work Inc. building which we had parked outside of. "Never seen one do that before. Hey Johnny, Chris, come look at this fucking shit," he called inside. "Oh, whoa, hey, watch your dick," Chris yelled at me, grabbing his junk when he saw the thing. And that's the day I became Goblin Louie. Not that catchy, I know. Well, ain't nothing I can do about it. Thank God people don't use that too much, at least. But the day don't end there. In fact, it got pretty eventful. "So who was the broad at the fights?" I asked Mark. "Broad?" Chris asked. "What broad?" "That hotel bitch named Sasha came knocking around looking for me at the fights," he said, which put a real nervous look on his face. "They're looking for someone who's apparently been causing some sort of trouble for them, and she thought we might know something about it." "You told her we don't, right?" Johnny shouted. "Calm down, I smoothed it over. We're all good. It ain't got nothing to do with us, and as long as it don't, you know the deal. They're gonna leave us be," he reassured him. "What's going on?" I asked. "Look, kid, there's a few unfuckwittables around here. You don't fuck with the people who got the little lamb tattoo. You don't fuck with the guys who carry this old silver coin around. And on top of that list, you don't fuck with the people you see wearing those black and gold clothes. You see anyone wearing that uniform, you steer clear of it. And if you can, you do what they say without question. If not, they can and will rain ungodly hellfire down on you and everything around you, like you can't even imagine. You understand that?" He told me with a serious voice. Yeah, no worries. I'll stay away." "Okay, good. Now, what was you saying about the hunter asshole?" he asked Chris. "Oh yeah, my guys said there was another one running around stirring shit up. Him and the others tried to get some vampires after the first one, so we got a description. Me and Johnny were about to go follow up a tip right before you two got back." "Alright then, you two go do that and see what you can fish up. Me and the Goblin Whisperer can hold down the fort," Mark told him as he walked inside. "We got an order for Tom tonight, don't we?" "Yeah, we were about to get started on it before you got here," Johnny said. Okay, go over to the morgue and get one of the circle ones and bring them back here. Any which one works, Mark told me. And hurry up every chance you get. One of those bike delivery assets is gonna be here to pick it up soon.
Oh my god, this smells like shit. Something's really gonna eat this?
I gagged into my hands as Mark started hacking at the body. You bitch a lot, you know that? Now here, do something with this femur. He said, tossing a bare bloody leg bone at me. Over there in the rubber trash can. There's a necromancer I saw them too.
A what? I asked.
They like to do all kinds of hoodoo with dead shit. Hey, bring me that empty container over there when you're done. He told me, pointing at a clear plastic Tupperware container on the table next to the trash can. Okay, you take the rest of that mess back to the morgue and follow the signs to the crematorium. Put it on the rack and close everything up. I'll be dead delighted after I hand things off, he said, putting the rotten meat into a plastic bowl and sealing it up. But before I could roll the body out of the room, the phone rang and Mark answered. Oh, hey, Doc. Yeah, I got you. Give me a day or two and I'll bring him over, he said in the most casual and friendly voice I've heard out of him so far, before hanging up and calling over to me. Whoa, hold on a second. And he walked over to the cot with a meat cleaver and what looked like a boning knife. He took the cleaver and chopped the head off. He set it over to the side. Help me flip this guy. So we flipped the body over. He took the boning knife and cut his kidneys out. What was that all about? I asked. Guy uses the pituitary and adrenal glands in his project. So when he needs new ones, I take the old ones out of bodies we don't have any use for. Now take that back there and do what I said. As I rolled the cart back, the goblin that had been running free around the shop the whole time climbed back up onto my shoulder and came with me to the morgue. Hey there, little guy. You're actually pretty mellow most of the time, ain't you? So I take the body and do what Mark told me to do, and head back to the shop. Hey, what exactly do goblins eat? I started to ask, but as I walked around the corner, I saw that they were strapping some poor fuck down to a chair in the middle of the room. Whoa, shit! This the guy? I asked Johnny as he wrapped more duct tape around the guy's legs. Yeah, kind of a pussy though. Didn't put up much of a fight. Couple of rights and he was counting sheep all the way here. Whoa, look out! I yelled, jumping out of the way as Chris threw a bucket of water over the guy's face. Hey, wake the hell up! He grunted, kicking the man's shins. Huh? Where am I? The guy choked as he came to. Who are you people? That ain't gonna matter for much longer. Mark spoke as he stood up from his chair, hidden in the shadows at the other end of the room. Where you're at, who we are, ain't gonna make no difference if you know or not, he said as he walked over. Man's got a knack for drama. Why? Why not? 'Cause this is the end of the road for you, pal. You're gonna die here tonight, he told him as a matter of fact. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like I said, ain't no point. So here's what's gonna happen, he added, pulling out a folding chair and sitting down in front of the guy. Once we're done here with you, we're gonna go kill your little friends too. Now here's the deal. You're gonna tell us where to find them, because we're gonna torture you until you do. My deal is, the sooner you tell us, the less you gotta suffer. And not just you. The longer you take to tell us, the more we're gonna torture your buddies when we catch them after. You understand what I'm saying to you? And then the guy, you ready for this? Spits blood all over Mark's face. You could hear a pin drop, right there and then. And then Johnny spoke up. Now take it easy, Mark. You know that if we kill him now, it'll be a real pain in the ass to get the rest of them. Just stay calm. Give me that damn claw hammer over there, he told Chris. And the egg timer next to it. Louis, take this guy's shoes and socks off, he added as he wiped the blood off his face with a towel before cramming it into the guy's mouth. So I did like he said. And while you might already see where this is heading, this guy, I've had rough information out of people before, but Mark, he's an artist. As soon as I got the second sock off, Mark didn't waste any time. He took the hammer and smashed the guy's pinky toe flat, causing blood to squirt out like a ketchup packet or something. Once the man stopped crying, he took the egg timer and set it to 5 minutes and said, Okay, now look at this thing here. When that bell rings, I'm going to smash the next one on the other side. Then I'm going to reset it. and when it rings again, I smash the next one on the other foot. And then he just sat there, and timer ticking soft in the background until ding! The guy squealed as his other pinky toe exploded between the hammer and the concrete floor. This guy kept going until they ran out of toes. "You look thirsty. Let's get you a drink," Mark said, pulling the rag out of the guy's mouth and unfolding it. "Right, boys. Leaning back." Then Johnny and Chris tipped his chair back and wrapped the rag around his face. Mark walked away and came back a few seconds later with one of those big water cooler jugs and started slowly pouring it in the guy's face. "You feeling chatty yet?" Mark shouted once he stopped. "It's gonna get a whole lot worse than this, I swear to God," he yelled as he poured more and more water on the man. Once the water was gone, Mark repeated the toe thing with the guy's fingers. But he didn't talk until we started drilling his teeth. He didn't last very far into that before we knew exactly where the rest was staying. "Okay, you heard the man. Go check it out," he said to Johnny and Chris. Once they were gone, he says to me, "I think you can handle this if you want to call it a day." "Yeah, it's been kind of tiring trying to get used to all this fairy tale shit," I answered. "Come here, little guy," I said, patting my leg to call my new gremlin-looking ass pet over. It took its usual place on my shoulder, and I started to leave when the guy in the chair choked up. Why are you guys doing this? You're human, aren't you?" And that seemed to hit Mark real different than the other stuff he said. So I stopped, kind of curious to hear what Mark was going to say, because he actually looked pissed as hell after a few seconds. So I slid myself into a corner and watched. "What did you just say?" "I said, what did you just say, you little fuck?" he said, grabbing the guy by the lapel. "Why do we do this?" "You got no fucking right to ask me that!" he shouted even louder, snatching the guy's head back with a handful of his hair. "Did you or your little hunter buddies ever give one bit of thought to what yous was doing? Any at all? What gives you the fucking right to go around stalking and killing the paranormal?" "They eat people." The man wheezed through the blood still pooling in his mouth. "You don't think I know that? Look over there! You know how many bodies I've carved up on that table? Too many to count. And you know why I do that? So that the ones that do gotta eat human flesh to live don't have to live with the whole village coming down on their door with torches and pitchforks. We get the bodies from the morgues we own and sell the meat and parts to creatures that need them. But even if we didn't, that still don't give you no right to run around killing them for no goddamn reason. Oh yeah, I'm onto you little hunter fucks." Mark kept talking as he paced around the man in the chair. "You ain't out for justice or to protect your fellow man. Nah, you're all a bunch of grown-ass children who watch too many shows or read too many stories about the noble monster hunters. Well, I'm here to tell you, that ain't you. Ain't nothing noble or heroic about what you assholes do. You're going out and killing just to live this fantasy of yours. Luckily, most of the time you guys never find out about this world and stick to writing your little fan stories on the internet. But every now and then, some of you figure it out. Like right now. But see here, the thing you kids don't understand or just refuse to acknowledge is that even if they do gotta kill people, they're doing it to survive. It's in their nature. I saw this video one time. It was of a deer or something giving birth. The miracle of life and all that bullshit. But you see, what happens as the little fawn deer is being born, this leopard comes out and chases the mother deer off and snatches the fawn right up. Fast food fresh out the oven. Now you see, don't nobody in their right mind question the morality of that. Not for the leopard, not for the deer. They was just doing what was in their nature to do. That's it. Ain't got nothing to do with good or evil or right or wrong. Yeah, it might not make us feel so great to see. Even makes us feel kinda bad. But we ain't gotta go out and murder all the leopards because sometimes they eat a baby deer or two. As he said all this, I caught myself actually hanging on each word. This wasn't what I expected to hear when I decided to hang around. You ain't killing to eat. You ain't killing to protect yourself. None of that. Nah, you're doing this for shits and giggles. To be like those people on your shows and in your stories, those beings out there, they got every bit the same right to live as any human, sometimes even more. But at the very least, they got that same right. As he said that, his phone rang. Okay, good to know, he said before hanging up. And without saying anything else to the guy, Mark picked up a hammer and bashed the guy's skull in. Whoa, was that maybe a little much? I asked after a piece of brain landed on my shoe. Maybe, yeah, but it felt good, he answered, wiping some of the blood off his face. Hey kid, you got a nice suit? Nah, just some clothes I brought here with me. There's a place around the corner, big black and pink sign. George Clooney gets some of his suits from there. They should still be open. Leave your new pet here. Run down there. Tell them Mark sent you. They'll get you set up. Just make sure it's black. A couple of days passed with business at Dirty Work Inc. going more like I was used to back in New York. Shakedowns, drug runs, morgue retrieval. Okay, that last one was kind of weird. And then on the day I went to pick up the suit, I was told that it was for me to wear at a funeral the next day. The day of, I pull up in this out of the way of a funeral home with Mark, who was in a red suit to mirror his usual red sweater, but still with his signature black derby hat. Hey, did you really mean all that shit you said yesterday about nature and the right to live and everything? I asked as we got out of the van. Yeah, sure, why? Well, it's just, don't you, we extort them for money and sell them drugs and whack them when they don't pay and all that? It says. Yeah, I guess that's what I used to think at least, when I first started this whole thing. Maybe I'm just old and jaded these days, and that part only crawls back up to the surface when I gotta deal with those hunter fucks. Hey, who are you? Dr. Phil now? Anyway, straighten up. This is a funeral after all. Oh yeah, I forgot to ask. Whose funeral is it? I'm so sorry for your loss, Mrs. Crawlerman, Mark said, walking up to the strange-looking woman whose skin had a sickly greenish hue, and giving her a hug. Did you find the ones who did this to my son? She asked him as she started to weep. We did, Mrs. Crawlerman. We got them all. You don't gotta worry about that today. Let's just go inside. See your boy. And that's the story of the day I decided to become a permanent member of the Paranormal Mafia. But remember, you didn't hear it from me. I mean, I'm just saying. Seems kind of weird to be so protective of them when you're, well, selling them protection. I says to Mark whilst we walked to the van after the funeral was done. Okay, hold on a second real quick. I just got that last thing might be kind of confusing for people who don't know nothing about rackets. So protection don't really mean protection, but also it does. You see, the idea is the mob comes to your home or your business and says that the place is real dangerous. But if you pay them X amount of money every X amount of time, they keep you safe. Now what they're actually saying to folks is that place is dangerous because of them, and for a certain amount of money, they won't terrorize the person they're selling protection to. You know how you watch a YouTube video and one of the ads is YouTube trying to get you to pay for ad-free YouTube? Same thing, but you don't got a choice but to pay. That's how selling protection works. Anyway, let's hear what Mark has to say on the subject. I already told you. It's just the way I get around those guys. They ain't running rackets or trying to protect anyone. It's all a real-life fantasy for them. Me and the rest do what we gotta do if we gotta do it to keep things under control. He says to me, you know how hard it is for a handful of humans to keep the peace in the underworld of the supernatural underworld? We can't give an inch. They gotta be terrified of us because some of them are easy stronger than the strongest man on earth. They get to smelling blood in the water and things might go south real fast and end up like it is down south where the vampires run shit. So you got the paranormal underworld under your thumb around here? Yeah, more or less. And Snakehead Broad runs the show in the legal stuff and lets us do our thing in the less legal shit as long as we leave her and her employees alone. But how do you keep all these crazy-ass monsters and shit in check? You're a regular Joe, same as me, ain't you? You ever pick up a cat that 100% don't want to be picked up? Yeah, why? Successfully? No? Exactly. You're way bigger and way stronger than the cat. But once that cat flips its shit and goes fucking Antichrist, suddenly most people don't want no part of that cat. I seen one cat have 4 grown adults trapped in a bathroom scared out of their damn minds. That's how we run things around here. You step out of line, if we can do it, we will. We've sat at the table of beings you can't even imagine. Because we can get stuff that nobody else can. And because we'll do things nobody else will. And that's when I started to realize I might have stepped out of my league with this bunch. But I was already in it, so I might as well keep going. I guess I get that. I said, opening the door to the van and climbing inside. So we got any work for today? Nah, take the day off. I'm gonna drop you back off, then I'm gonna go talk to the kid's family at their place for a little while. After that, we went back to the apartments and he dropped me off out front. Then, as I turned from the van, I go to see the landlord getting ready to leave the office. Wouldn't normally be a big deal if I hadn't noticed at the same time that the goblin found its way out of my apartment and was heading in her direction. Shit! I thought to myself, starting to panic. There's no way you can explain a goddamn goblin. I ain't even allowed to have cats here, I said as I frantically made a mad dash to grab the thing and take off before she saw it. Almost there. Almost. Got ya! Oh, hey, Louis, right? Is your rent due or something? I heard a voice from behind me speak as I wrapped the thrashing mini monster in my jacket. Oh, hi, Mrs. Barnes. But no, not for another few weeks. I just, dropped my jacket. I lied, thinking there's no way she's gonna buy it. Oh, okay. See you then, I guess. Landlord said as she wandered off in some kind of stupor. What the hell are you doing out? I growled at the little monster squirming around in my arms. What's in your mouth? Once I was back in my apartment, I dropped the struggling creature to the ground and pulled the object I wrestled from its mouth out of my pocket, which I determined to be the groin area of a garden gnome. You know, this ain't too reassuring, right? I asked the thing as I tossed the ceramic crotch on the counter. Could have just caught a damn goldfish. My phone ringing is what woke me up the next morning. Burner phone. This is gonna be interesting. I groaned as I rolled over and picked it up off the nightstand. Kim's Korean Laundry, I answered, still trying to wake up all the way. I need you to whack someone, Mark said from the other end. Why can't the gorilla with the hog splitter do it? Seems a better pick for it. This don't mean his criteria. And we got you now, so I'll say it again. You need to whack someone, Mark answered. Fine, ho? I asked, shifting to put my feet on the floor. Oh, Jesus, fuck! What the hell's wrong with you? I heard Mark ask. That goddamn thing just ran out from under my bed and scared the shit out of me. I still ain't used to having a little Antichrist running around my place, I groaned as I flopped back onto my pillow. Anyway, who's getting whacked? The folder's on the floor in the front of the door. I leaned up and saw a manila folder right where he said. Huh, that's convenient. So, there anything special I need to kill this chump? Nah, any standard whacking method should work. Just don't stir up any shit, and don't be seen. Other than that, I don't care how you do it as long as he ain't breathing by the end of the day. Yeah, I know what I'm doing, I told him before hanging up. You stay your little ass in here, you understand? I told the goblin before closing the door to the apartment. It wasn't until I was halfway across the courtyard that it hit me. How the hell am I supposed to get there? Taking a bus to kill a guy. This is not the height of my nefarious career, I thought to myself as the bus rolled to a stop. This guy better not be a hassle, I'm already aggravated. So I stepped off the bus and onto the street. I checked the map and started heading to the place. After wandering around for a while, I finally found the joint. Big ass McMansion looking place off the way a little bit. I pulled out my phone to call Mark. What kind of shit is this? I asked. What? This guy's got cameras and armed guards all over the place, I complained. And? He's in an armored car right now with more security. So you sure as shit ain't getting him in there. And? Who do you think I am? I'm not loaded for this shit. I'm wearing a bowling shirt and cargo shorts. I'm in socks and Crocs, for fuck's sake. You got this, he said and then hung up. I hope you get full-body colon cancer, you asshole, I mumbled as I shoved my phone into my pocket. Well, this is gonna be one hell of a trick. So after scoping the place out for about an hour, I had my plan ready and in action. I had my pistol pointed at the camera on the left side of the house. Lucky for me, it was suppressed with the subsonic rounds. Because Keep in mind that when you see cameras in a private residence, they don't usually got somebody actually watching them. They're there to see who's been there, how they got there, and how they left. I didn't want to be on TV. I made sure I had my pistol ready for my signal, which was the kids who somebody just taught how to make hairspray bombs and who accidentally told them about the empty lot next to the house. Boom! Squeezed the trigger, shattering the camera.
The hell was that?
Once I saw the first guard rush to investigate, the rest took their positions just like I expected. Until...
It's just some fucking kids making hairspray bombs in the lot next door.
I heard the first guard call to the rest.
What? You fucking with me?
Another said as they all started to relax. And then... they left their post for just a second to talk. And that's when I slipped over the fence. I had to climb up the side of a damn house to get to the balcony where I saw what looked like the easiest lock to jimmy open with nothing but my knife I had on me at the time in case there was actually a lock. Luckily I was able to climb up without breaking my neck. I slid carefully and quietly over the guardrail and onto the balcony. But I waited a little while before entering. Tucked away in the far corner, I watched inside to check and see what was going on inside. Eat your heart out, Tom Clancy. It didn't look like there was anyone in there, so I slipped inside and waited for him in the dark bedroom. Click. Don't scream, I told him as he flipped on the light switch to the room after he arrived. I got some bad news for you, buddy.
What do you want? You can have whatever you want, just take it.
He said as soon as he saw the gun in my hand that was pointed at him as it rested on the arm of the chair I was been sitting on. That's not what this is about, I told him as I stood from the chair, causing him to back up a little bit to the wall.
What is it then, and why are you here? You're gonna kill me?
Afraid so, I answered plainly.
Why? Who wants me dead?
I don't know. It's not my department. Pissed off the wrong person or people and they want you dead. Tough break.
Please, mister, I'll do anything, please. I have a family, what about them?
He started to plead as he fell to his knees. They'll go on living and probably get one hell of an insurance payout on top of the inheritance by the looks of this place, I said, looking around. And hey, think of it this way. With all the weird shit I've seen lately, there's probably even an afterlife. So you got that going for you. Look, no matter what, this is happening. So here's my offer. You just go along with it and it'll be quick and painless. You'll never feel a thing. But you scream, fight back, run, or inconvenience me at all, I'm gonna shoot you in the lung and let you drown in your own blood. What's it gonna be? So what did that guy do to make me go through all this shit? I asked Mark later that day at the shop.
There's supposed to be some schmuck who was advocating the breakdown and public divide between humans and the paranormal. And if that happened, it would affect a lot of business like ours. And many more that would cater exclusively to the paranormal in order to maintain that segregation. Some anonymous person with the cash to spare apparently got anxious enough about it to have him removed from the equation,
he explained. So that was like a real deal political assassination?
Yeah, I guess so. Look who's moving up in the world,
he joked, slapping me on the back. But hey, I just had a thought, I said, the idea popping into my brain. Don't the people who hire people for political assassinations usually, do away with the assassins to keep it from getting linked back to them?
Nah. That's probably just the movies or something.
But, well, where do you think most people get the idea of how to deal with assassination? I asked again.
Well, you're just overthinking it,
he told me as he worked on placing more meat into their own plastic containers. And maybe you're right. Whoa, you okay, Mrs. Barnes? You look like death warmed over, I said before I could think when I saw my landlord on the way back to my apartment.
Huh? Oh, yeah, I'm just a little stressed.
Yeah, you look it. Say, I got an idea. You know that little restaurant down the road? Let's say we go down there and eat something. You can relax for a minute, I asked, feeling the roll of cash Mark gave me earlier that day. It's on me.
Sounds nice, but I really shouldn't.
Come on. I'm not asking you to marry me. I'm buying you food. Let's go. I'll have you back by curfew, I insisted, taking her by the arm and walking the opposite direction back to the road.
Well, okay.
I guess I can take a break for a little while,
she said softly as we walked. That's the spirit. You look like you're about to fall over anyway.
Oh God, I probably look horrible. I can't be in public like this.
You look fine. In a Grim Reaper kind of way. I mumbled that last part under my breath. It's no 5-star joint anyway. After we sat down and placed our orders, I decided to snoop a little. 'Cause why not? So, how are things in the landlord business?
Not great. I'm starting to think I'm way in over my head. I bought the place because of, for a guy. I had to borrow a lot of money from some really bad people, and I don't know if I'll be able to keep up with the payments, and...
She paused for a second, looking down at the table.
It was probably more than you wanted to know.
No, that's not it. Just more than I was expecting, I guess. So what about this guy? I asked her.
Oh, well, I guess you could say I bought the place for him, if things just didn't work out.
She told me, sounding kind of regretful.
He even cost me my old job, so this is all I've got now.
So you buy an entire apartment complex after he gets you fired and just go into debt for this guy? And what? He runs off on you?
Something like that. But now I'm stuck with the place. The guy who used to own it has his nephew to do all the maintenance and upkeep, and he lived off pretty much a shoestring budget. But I've never run a place like this before, and the stress is starting to get to me.
She explained. Well, damn, that's, well, I thought I got a raw deal, I mumbled.
So what brings you here? She asked me. Seems like a lot of you East Coast city types are showing up all over the place lately. What kind of work you do?
Oh, well, a little of this, a little of that. General contracting, I guess you could say. I lied.
Oh, so like construction and stuff?
Yeah, something like that. So where are you from?
Oh, Mississippi. Moved out here for work, too. Still haven't gotten used to this place yet.
She joked, finally sounding a little less miserable. Hey, look at that. That's the first time I've seen you smile since we met. I was starting to think you didn't know how. I joked back as the waitress brought out our food. Close the goddamn door! Mark bellowed at me over the blood-curdling screams as soon as I tried to walk into the shop the following day. What the fuck is this shit show? I yelled back once I was inside. Once I got a good look, I saw he had yet another poor bastard strapped to the chair. Several toes already splattered across the floor. What the shit did this guy do? That ain't nothing you gotta worry about. Take this to the morgue and get what's on this list whilst I'm finishing up here. He said, handing me this bloody piece of paper. And after this, you're gonna go meet Muscles and help him with the thing. Muscles? You mean the giant Chinese bastard? The fuck could he possibly need my help for? You want me to wipe his ass or something? Just go do this list and don't argue with me. Mark told me before punching the guy in the jaw, who had started trying to wiggle his way out of the chair. And you sit still! What am I gonna do? The guy looks like he could bully a rhino out of his lunch money and I gotta go play nanny for him or something? This is some bullshit, I complained to myself as I wheeled the cadavers out of the morgue and into the connecting hallway. You stay out of his way, and then when he's done you go in and find this. Mark told me as he handed me another piece of paper. I unfolded it to see the picture of what looked like an old hammer. This is it? You can't just go to a goddamn hardware store? I asked him, kinda getting frustrated. Do you want to work or do you want a history lesson? Once upon a time there was a guy who did his fucking job, the end. He snapped, but then he paused for a second. Okay, look, so there's this guy. Well, not really a guy, he's actually a god. Hephaestus, to be specific. He's basically the god of making shit. And there's a few people out there who go out of their way and deep into their wallets to collect things this guy made. The guy who has it now is one of those guys, and we're getting paid a whole lot of money to get it from him. Now go meet Muscles at that address, and once everything is cleaned out, you go in and get that thing in the picture. And if you see something that catches your eye, you can take that too for your trouble. But you don't leave until you get that hammer. You understand what I'm saying? It sounds like you want me to go loot a house after the guy massacres everyone inside. Is that a problem? Mark asked, aiming a nail gun at the guy's kneecap. Nah, just making sure, I answered before walking back outside. Ah, great. He looks about as happy about this as I am. I thought to myself as I pulled into the empty alleyway where we were supposed to meet. Maybe if I just keep my mouth shut I can get through this without getting my ass kicked. Then I got out of the van and walked over to meet him. He was standing next to the truck and was taking out the case with that giant hog splitter looking thing in and out of the bed. I just kind of moved aside to say, "Lead the way," and followed behind him. Once we made it to the other end of the alley, he put his hand out to stop me, pointing up to an open window where some guy was watching over the streets. A lookout. "What are we gonna do about this?" I asked him since I didn't bring my pistol this time. But he didn't answer. He just popped the case open, removed a massive weapon from inside, and waved me out of the way. I was honestly kind of curious to see what he was about to do. I hadn't actually got to see the guy in action before. I was intrigued, you might say, but I wasn't ready for this. Once he pushed me out of the way, he suddenly started whistling real loud. And once the lookout noticed and started to lean his head out of the window to see what was going on, he reared back real far and chucked the gigantic blade humming like a propeller across the street, where it landed dead center in the lookout's face as he stuck his head out. Then he took off running towards the entrance as the lookout's body began to slide throughout the window, the sheer weight of this weapon pulling him over the edge. Then right before he hit the ground, Muscles was already under him, snatching the object from his face and making his way the rest of the distance to the door, dragging the body behind him by the leg, never breaking his stride as he kicked the door open and walked inside. After a few moments of stillness, he stuck his head out from the top window where the lookout had been and waved me over before disappearing back inside. By the time I could cross the street with his case, he was already outside, washing the blood on the sidewalk away with what smelled like a jug of bleach. Then he took the case from me and made his way back to the alley, leaving me to go retrieve what I was sent for. Jesus Christ, I whispered to myself as I walked in, stepping over the corpse of the lookout to find two halves of a somewhat less human-looking body laying in the doorway off to the left, a long gash down both walls on either side, right at the height the body would have been parted. I came across several similar scenes as I wandered around the place looking for the hammer. The rest of the bodies didn't seem to be human either. Didn't stop me from taking a Rolex or two off of them though. Didn't even bother looking through their wallets. Everybody's going cashless these days, and unloading cards is just a pain. Then after a little more searching, I finally found what I was looking for. The hammer was in a fancy glass display case. Or it was fancy before I smashed it open with a much less fancy ashtray sitting on the coffee table next to it. Okay, I got the stupid hammer, I thought to myself as I picked it up and looked it over. The hell's so special about this thing? I asked right before I heard the police sirens in the distance. Great, now it's cops, I said, leaning out the window to look at the flashing lights getting closer and closer to where I was. Who the hell would even call them already? I asked myself as I tried to scramble a plan together, but it took too long. I could already hear them coming through the front door. Aw, hell. I don't have to explain any of this shit, I mumbled as I scurried around trying to find a temporary hiding place. I heard someone say something as he walked up the stairs.
They're probably still in here somewhere. If they have the hammer, kill them and take it. Don't worry about the rest of the stuff.
Great. Dirty cops, I thought as I hid behind the wall next to the door and waited. Then as I saw the pistols come into view around the corner, I took the hammer and swung it down. Out of nowhere was a bright flash and a loud crackling noise like thunder. Once I could see again, I could make out a few pieces of the gun embedded into the hardwood floor. And once I didn't go straight through it, that is. What kind of fucking hammer? I whispered to myself over the screams of the dirty cop cradling his mutilated hand. And in a rare moment of clarity, I had an idea. Knowing the screams would bring the rest of them up to the source, I placed a marble globe on the coffee table in front of the entrance to the room and waited. Once I heard them coming up the steps, I aimed for the wall just beside the door and let the globe have it. The same flash, the same ear-splitting crash, and the wall was riddled with holes and marble fragments. Holy shit, I said, staring down at the thing in my hand for a second before coming to my senses and bolting out into the hallway, jumping over the pile of dead police to make it back to the steps.
I'm sorry, you did what?
Mark asked once I made it back to the shop.
Did anyone see you?
Nah, I made sure of it. I went out the back and took the long way around through the alleys. I know what I'm doing. What I want to know is how the cops got there so fast like that. Nobody could have called them that fast. I sat tossing the hammer down on the counter.
We'll worry about that later. Right now we gotta get this thing appraised before we bring it to the buyer.
Mark says to me.
We're waiting on Chris and Johnny, and then we're all gonna go take it to get checked out and make sure it's the hammer we're looking for.
Exactly how many old hammers that people would keep in a glass case are there? I asked sarcastically.
Enough that we need to be sure, smartass.
Mark said before the shop door opened and Chris and Johnny stepped inside. You guys good to go? Hollywood Antiques. Take the history of Hollywood home with you. I read the sign on the gaudy antique store as I stepped out of the van. Is everything around here some front for supernatural bullshit?
More than you might think.
Mark answered as he shut the driver's side door.
Hold this and don't let it out of your sight. If you know what's good for you.
He told me as he handed me the box with the hammer inside. Then as we all walked inside, I saw an old lady standing behind the counter with this not all there look on her face.
Hey, the boss in?
Mark asks her, walking up to the register.
We need things looking at.
He snapped his fingers a few times and waved me over.
Can you tell Miss Abigail what we're looking for here?
No need. A very small girl's voice spoke from behind the old lady. I could have heard you come in from across the street. Now what is it? A young girl asked as she walked from behind the woman, her head barely taller than the counter.
We need an appraisal. We're pretty sure, but we don't want to take this out to the guy without you signing off first.
Mark said as the girl stepped up onto a stool. Yo, we came all the way across town to have a toddler check this thing out? I blurted out before I could think, which caused Mark and Chris to both swat me across the back of the head at the same time.
Shut it, stupid. She's a vampire. Got turned when she was a kid, so she stayed that size. She's older and knows more than all four of us put together.
Mark barked into my face. Excuse me, yes, whilst I am a vampire and have a very youthful appearance, first and foremost, I am a businesswoman, and you'll mind your tone with me, or I'll mind it for you, she said bluntly, her hands resting on the glass tabletop next to the register. Yo, what? Did you just threaten me, you little bitch? What are you gonna do if I don't, huh? I yelled down at her. She responded by placing her hands on the countertop and lifting herself up onto it, standing with a soft grunt. Then she leaned down to grab the hem of her dress with both hands and began to lift it up. I woke up laying face down in the back of the van as it bounced around and rocked down the road. Oh, what the fuck happened? I groaned as I rolled over onto my back, my head pounding like one of those bongo drums.
Abigail punting your ass across the antique store is what happened. Too bad I couldn't get my phone out fast enough to film it. Good news is we got the right hammer. I called the guy and we're on our way to meet him.
Mark explained from the driver's seat. A few minutes and about 5 aspirin later, we were pulling into the alleyway where the shop was. But this time there was a really big blonde guy out in front of the door. He had his back leaning against the opposite wall, his tree-trunk-sized arms crossed as he stood there patiently. Once he noticed us, he pushed himself off the wall and walked over to meet us at the van.
Here you go, Mr. Pye. Appraised by Miss Abigail herself.
Mark said his hand in the man the box.
Excellent!
The man shouted in his booming voice.
And nobody was hurt in its acquisition, as I requested? Oh, of course, Mr. Pye. Not a single hair harmed, answered Mark.
Don't you say a fucking word. He then whispered in my ear once he saw the bullshit look on my face when I heard that.
I really need to stop losing this thing,
the man said as he flipped it in his hands a few times.
Well, I suppose I should pay you gentlemen now.
We all looked back and forth at each other trying to figure out who he was talking about, searching for any gentleman we hadn't noticed before.
I guess you'll just have to pay us instead, Mr. Pye,
Mark told him with a little chuckle. Then the guy walked over to where he was standing when we got there and walked back with a small duffel bag. He reached out to hand it to Mark, but before he could grab it, the man pulled it back.
Now, I'll know if you're lying to me. But we got the certificate from Mrs. Abigail. It's the real That's not what I mean.
The man interrupted, his hand tightening around the bag's strap, sending ripples throughout the enormous muscles in his forearm.
You know what I'm referring to. And I know about your aversion to ethics. This is your last chance.
Okay, some not-so-nice people got what was coming to them. Big deal, Mark finally answered.
With Dirty Work Inc., not Happy Fun Time with Friends, LLC. What did you expect? Indeed.
The man mumbled before dropping the bag next to Mark's feet.
Well, time for me to leave,
he said before a bright light and clash of thunder filled the valley. By the time I could open my eyes, he was gone.
vanished into thin air.
Whoops, actually my ride's this way.
He said, walking around from behind me, holding the phone in his hand. We just stared as he strolled down the alley, twirling the hammer in one hand, phone in the other as a car pulled up, waiting for the guy to get in. Without a word, Mark reached down and picked up the duffel bag and made his way into the shop, leaving the rest of us standing outside watching the car drive off with the strange guy in the back seat. Jesus, what a day, what a day. I groaned as the rest of us finally made it into the shop with Mark. What do you think he wanted with a hammer like that? You don't make it very far in our line of work asking questions like that. Chris answered as he walked to his desk at the back of the shop. Mark was well into counting stack after stack of bills from a larger pile on the table. He said, throwing several of the stacks my way.
I don't know how the hell you keep making it out by the skin of your teeth like you do, but it's damn sure good for business.
End of the world would be me and the cockroaches, boss. I said, collecting my bills, stuffing them into my pockets. Anyway, I gotta get home. See what the gobblers managed to destroy today. Which is a sentence that I said.
Yeah, go ahead. Me and the boys got a special thing we've been meaning to take care of. It reminds me. Hey, Chris, you get that kid's bike like I asked?
Yeah, it's in the back of my truck. Get the new guy to bring it in before he leaves, Chris answered. Once I got back to the apartments, I noticed Miss Barnes dragging herself out of the office.
Geez, looks like you had a rough day too,
she said when she saw me. Yeah, it was murder, I answered as I stuffed my hands down into my pockets to hide the outline of the suspicious cash crammed into them. As she opened her mouth to reply, she was interrupted by a noise from across the parking lot. Where the hell is it? A familiar voice screamed as the guy I had mistakenly followed all the way to LA came storming out of his own apartment, followed by a really cute girl with white hair who was trying her damnedest to calm him down.
Oh shit. You might want to take off. I feel like this is about to get heated,
Miss Barnes warned me as the guy stormed over. You sure you're gonna be okay? I asked her, but she didn't answer. She just nodded and waved me away. Okay, call me if you need anything, I told her as I left. As I walked through the door to my apartment, the goblin stuck its head out of the bag of dog food before climbing out and rolling over to the floor. It had eaten what looked like half a bag and had its gut so big it could barely walk. Yeah, well, I'm not getting you any more until next week if you eat all that, I told it as I headed to bed. As soon as my bag hit the bed, my phone rang. Son of a bitch, I groaned, digging my pocket. What?
Break's over. Something came up. Get your ass back over here.
Mark's voice spoke through the speaker before hanging up. Ah! I groaned, remembering to grab my pistol this time. The sound of Mark's voice made me feel like things had the potential to go south with whatever was going on. You behave, I told the goblin before heading out again. So what's the big deal? I asked as I walked inside the shop. But they didn't answer right off. They all stared at me for a few seconds before I noticed they were all standing around one of the carts we carried the bodies around on. Then I walked closer and realized there was a human body on it. Which wasn't unusual by itself, but how they were acting around it was. What's going on? I asked again. But then I noticed the smell. That body had been dead for a while.
This guy right here works for that company that drives paranormal creatures around. Looks like he's been dead for a while. Problem with that, he's been taking rides the whole time. And we just found one of those passengers turn up dead too. So you see the issue with that?
Mark explained. Yeah, not too often you get a ride from a dead guy. But what's this got to do with us?
We can't have some cocksucker running around and doing shit like this in our court. Also, we don't want the owner of that company coming down and sticking her nose in our business.
So now we gotta go find a supernatural serial killer.
Basically. Luckily we got resources at the rideshare company. We just wait for that phone to go active and then go where it leads us.
And then we whack the cocksucker.
And then we whack the cocksucker,
Mark confirmed. We spent the next hour getting ready. They had a small armory stashed away in the back, and they even called that muscular Chinese guy over. But he was busy with something else, so he didn't show up. They tossed me a ballistic vest out of the stockpile and told me to put it on just in case before handing me a rifle. It was starting to feel like a real fucked up SWAT team or something instead of a macabre branch of organized crime. Suppressed rifles in California. Not bad, I said, checking it over.
Not just that, the suppressor is state of the art. Just hit the market. That with the rounds in there? Well, here.
He said before taking his and firing a few rounds into the sandbag in the corner before I could even cover my ears. Okay, wait, I guess I need to explain real quick. You know those silences you see in movies and games when you just shoot and a little whistle or a hiss comes out? Well, that's not how it works. It's still a noisy affair. Most of the time there's a loud crack, like really loud. But not as bad as the raw sound going off a few feet from your ear. But it ain't quiet. Especially inside an enclosed room like we were in. Except what Mark had, with that thing. He fired around 4 shots, and all I could hear was the receiver and the bullet hitting the sandbag. Oh, hell yeah! Santa's getting a letter from me this year, I said in response.
Just hold on to that one when we get back. Ho ho ho.
Mark told me, sliding his own vest over his head.
Might come in handy down the road.
Then the phone beeped. Mark answered and a few seconds later hung up and said the signal had stopped somewhere outside of town. So we entered the location into the GPS and headed our way to the place. It was way out in the middle of nowhere. We couldn't see the light from the city after a while, it was so far out. I hadn't actually been that far out away from the city ever since I'd been in LA. And spending my whole life in and around New York City, it was kinda unsettling. Never thought of myself as someone who was scared of the dark. After spending so much time of my life around artificial light, I started getting more and more uneasy as the city lights became street lights, and the street lights became moonlight as we left civilization. After about an hour heading north later, we were getting real close. We turned off onto a long dirt road leading into the streets.
Hey, the car's still there?
Mark asked after making a call. The phone signal isn't pinged anywhere else. That's all I can say. The voice on the other end spoke up before hanging up.
Alright, we're almost there.
Mark said as we saw the blip getting closer on the GPS. And he stopped at a bend in the road, a ways from the destination, and turned it off. I was already ahead of what he was planning. He didn't want us to give away the van and his headlights, so we all got out and started walking the rest of the way in the dark. I felt my nerves start to get the better of me as we walked up to an old, dilapidated ranch house. Not a light to be seen. The faint shape could only be seen under the moonlight. We all stood by the tree line and listened for any sounds that might tell us what to expect. Then Mark tapped my shoulder, pointing me towards a car sitting on the side of the road. That's the one, right? I whispered.
Looks like it,
he answered.
Come on, lights on. Let's check it out.
He told us before switching the flashlights on his rifle. Ah, shit. It's the phone, Chris said as he saw the cell phone laying in the seat of the car. So they don't have it on them anymore, so we can't track him with it. Shit. Damn it.
Yeah, but that don't mean they ain't still here. Everyone stay tight. Don't let nobody get the drop on us. Let's look around. See what we can figure out at least.
We're not splitting up, are we? I asked in a panic.
No, calm down. Stick close and don't let anyone you don't know get behind you.
It doesn't look like anyone's been here for years, I said to myself as we checked inside of the house. I don't even think the door's been open in over 20 years. Yo, hey, there's an old barn out back, Chris said from the back of the house. Hey Johnny, get over here. If you're a creepy serial killer...
Would that look like a good place to be a creepy serial killer? Yep, let's check it out,
Mark added. We all walked out to the back door, but slower this time, like we knew that if we were going to find anything, that's where we would find it. Even as heavily armed as we were, I found myself wishing that big Chinese guy was with us. As we got closer, we could see the footprints in the dirt in front of the barn. And marks where someone had been drugged inside. As we rounded the corner of the entrance, our lights hit what was waiting for us. Jesus Christ, I gasped as all our lights shined on the same spot of the wall. The body had been nailed to the wall, upside down. The stomach was slashed open and their intestines were hanging out, covering their face.
Fuck me,
Johnny said quietly as he moved his light above the body.
Look, it says something,
he told us. I looked up to read the words written in the blood above the corpse. I will show you a new world through a veil of carnage and death that you cannot imagine.
Hey, look at this,
Mark said, shining his light at the opposite wall.
It was covered in more words written in blood and symbols, too. All over the place. Some old, some fresh.
Some kind of freaky call, I guess.
He added. So, how are we supposed to find this guy?
Hey, check this thing out.
Johnny said from beside me. I looked around and saw an old book sitting on a stump. We all walked over to where it was sitting to get a better look. There were a bunch of burnt out candles and stuff laying around it, all over the ground.
What do you guys think about all this?
Mark asked as he reached down to pick it up. Don't think you should be touching that shit, I said nervously.
Calm down, it's just some dumb book.
He said, flipping through the pages.
Okay, wait. This looks pretty weird. Let's look around one more time. I'm gonna hold on to this. So we don't find nothing else, we can at least try to get a lead on this.
Sharp gasp cut through the air as the loose boards of the barn started to rattle and shake. Jesus, she's still alive, Chris whispered as the person began to struggle for air. But it was cut short to the sound of the receiver clicking and the impact of a bullet.
You hate to see it,
Mark said, lowering his rifle.
Let's just get out of here. I don't think we're gonna find anything else.
He added, picking up the book off the ground from where he dropped it.
Hey, get me one of those burner phones out of the glove box.
Mark said after we'd been driving for a while.
Hey, Miss Abigail, you up? Yeah, vampire, I forgot. Of course you're up. Anyway, I was wondering if you could check something out for me. No, not on appraisal. We found something and it's really weird. Okay, we'll be there in about 30. He said before hanging up.
Here, take this, Chris said, shoving that book into my arms. Try to keep your lips touching each other this time before she kicks the shit out of you again.
We're here, Miss Abigail,
Mark yelled once we were inside.
This is some wacky shit we got this time.
Stop yelling, she shouted from behind the corner. Now bring me whatever you're talking about. I have things to do.
Hey, Miss Abigail, I think I found some kind of culty book or something. Hey, Louie, bring the thing.
Mark told me. Okay, let me see what you got this time, she said as I sat the book down on the counter. But as she flipped through the pages, her face got dark and grim. Where did you find this again?
Murder scene. Broad was upside down and her guts were hanging out and everything. Like right there,
he said, pointing to an illustration. Suddenly she just slams the book shut and shoves it across the counter and shouts, "Get that out of my shop! It shouldn't even be here!"
What are you talking about? I know for a fact you got all kinds of crazy cursed shit in the back of this joint.
Mark tried to ask. No, I mean it shouldn't be here, she said even louder, gesturing broadly around. Here in this reality. Get it away from me, now! Fuck me, what was that all about? I asked as we left.
Don't know, never seen it like that before.
Mark answered, looking at the book as we walked to the van.
Either way, we still gotta find this douchebag,
he said, tossing the book at me. Once we got to the shop, Mark got out first, saying,
Okay, I got some things I need to take care of around here. You guys see if you can run across anything.
And then he walked inside, leaving me in the van with Chris and Johnny.
What the fuck are we supposed to do now?
Johnny asked after taking a few seconds. But I was already flipping back through the book and wasn't paying that much attention. Then I noticed something weird. A picture in the book. Hey, how many people turned up missing so far? 3, I think. No, 4. Why? Check this out, I said, showing them the picture. Some kind of ritual looking thing, right? The picture was of 5 people in the same state where we found the one in the barn. Upside down, their stomachs cut open. Intestines hanging out over their faces. And there was something in the middle of them. Like a blackness pouring out of the hole in the center. And on the next page, there was what looked like a really old man. All hunched over and surrounded by bodies on the ground all around them. Okay, so I know I'm new to the whole paranormal thing, but this really looks like a ritual to me, I said as we looked down at the book. Plus that bitchy vampire girl got all freaked out, so I'm thinking there's something to this.
So you think whoever did this is definitely going to be looking for another victim?
Yeah, I think so. But the problem is who, how, and when, Chris answered. What do you think?
he asked me as I flipped back and forth through the book. Oh, what? Oh, actually want to know what I think? I asked suspiciously.
Yeah, that couldn't hurt.
Well, I'm thinking we should study this thing, I said, holding the book up. We might be able to figure that out. I'm looking at the picture right now, you know, being that I can't fucking read the thing.
It wasn't as nearly as stupid as I expected it to be. Okay, so what you got so far?
So there's this one drawing here with 5 people and a dark thing in the middle. And if I've learned anything from the movies, if it's a circle in a book, it's probably a circle in real life. So maybe we should, I don't know, like, draw on a map where the bodies were found, see if it works out like that. Holy shit, that kind of makes sense, Chris said. So after we spent forever trying to find a map, we decided to download a map and print it out. After we played hell trying to find a working printer for some reason, we finally got a hard copy of a map, and then we realized we didn't know where the notepad with all the locations was. After an hour or two of tearing the top apart, only to discover it was in Mark's back pocket with his wallet, we finally got around to doing what we set out to do.
I'll be damned. It's actually a circle,
Chris said, looking over the map.
So what now?
I don't know. I guess, can we maybe get the places the victims were picked up and see how far away from the place they were found is?
Look at Sherlock over here.
Johnny shouted, slapping my back hard enough that I could have punched him for it. Then he called Mark out to see if we could get information for us. And a few minutes later, he had picked up the spots listed and charted them on the map.
Son of a bitch, you some kind of savant or something?
Mark asked as he looked at the locations, which were all in close proximity to where the bodies were found. I guess I just thought about what I wouldn't do in the same situation, and hoped our guy wasn't smart enough or was in a big enough hurry to make a bad call like that, I explained. I guess we got lucky in that one, but I'm kinda still anxious about what the killer's trying to do. The stuff in this book is pretty fucked up looking, and to make that vampire toddler lady run us out of a place like that? I don't know. Bad vibes. But look, it looks like the last point of the circle isn't too far from my place.
I'd be careful about the toddler stuff,
Johnny warned me. Why? She's like a cranky gothic Cabbage Patch Kid, and she's under me, isn't she? I asked, slowly turning down to look at the 4'5" child of rage glaring up at me before sighing. Johnny, get the aspirin ready. I woke up and grabbed the pill bottle and the water that had been left resting on my chest before I sat up. Took about 4 of them and washed them down to ease the thumping in my skull. Once I was upright, I staggered over to the table where everyone else was, Abigail included. What's going on? I asked, half burping up some of the water. Charming. That was real charming, Abigail said with a look of disgust. Wait until you can hear what the other end can do, I added, grinning at her revulsion as I joined them at the table. So what's happening right now?
Miss Abigail finally agreed to take a look at the thing and tell us what we're dealing with,
Mark said, waving the book that looked comically big next to her.
She says it's looking pretty bad like you suspected.
How bad? Bad, Abigail answered. The circle ritual, it doesn't really have a set size. If it's done right, then however big the circle is how big the affected area will be. And what's the effect in question? It's not anything I've heard of before. Something about the veil of blackness. I think it's something from outside our whole universe.
You mean like the guys from the
No. She interrupted Chris's question. Different dimensions are still part of our universe. There are still rules, immutable laws of physics that they all have to follow. But this is different. It's saying something about a place where a cause can be a result but is also simultaneous. Look here, she said, placing her finger on the page and reading. Behind the veil, what will come to pass has passed before, and pass in the present, and is the cause of the passing. That made my brain hurt. I groaned, trying to figure out what she was saying. Just think, that causality doesn't work the same in wherever this is, she told us. Causality? Time
It's time. One thing happening and causing another thing that causes another thing.
She explained. Oh, okay. I think I get that, he said, still waiting for the painkillers to kick in. Gets worse, doesn't it? I feel like it gets worse.
It gets worse. Look at this. She told me, flipping to the page with an old man on it and reading again. It's talking about someone called the Rotting One. Think. Listen to what it says. The Rotting One, who revels only in the blood and suffering of those in the veil, lies in wait for those who worship their agony in his name without end.
Sounds kind of biblical to me,
Mark said sarcastically, scratching his head.
Yes, it does. That's part of what's so concerning.
Abigail said grimly. So, you saying this thing is like the devil? I asked nervously.
No.
So, God? Is this the real God?
No. Not the one in the Bible, at least.
What do you mean? How do you know?
Because I've met that one. He's not what you think he is. He's just some Sumerian volcano god that figured out how to build his brand. He's not omnipotent or anything. He just sells books, so to speak. There's someone who lives in a mansion a few miles from here who could totally take him out if they really wanted to. And he's not even worshipped by anyone.
Yo, you don't mean... Chris said, making a scary face and pointing his fingers over his mouth like fangs, then angling his hands over his forehead.
I do,
she said, nodding her head. Well, fuck me. Who knew? He said, looking half astonished. So, what about the old bastard?
I think this sounds so familiar because this might have had some influence on the themes of the Bible, especially parts to do with blood sacrifice and suffering. Maybe even in religions older than that, back to the Sumerian theology,
she suggested.
But this is assuming a lot since this is written in cuneiform. But even that's strange, just being written in a book and not stamped into a tablet like it should be.
She trailed off, almost talking to herself more than the rest of us. So what's got you so spooked about it? I questioned her.
Have you taken a really close look at this book? Look at it. Look at the pages and the cover and the binding. Or should I say the lack of a binding? There's no place where I can see the pages are separate from one another. It's like it was just conjured out of nothing. Not made or written, just created. That's not something you see very often, even in our world.
So what you're saying is you think this thing and what it says is legit?
Johnny asked her.
I do. And we need to stop this ritual from happening. Otherwise, we'll have to move somewhere else and start from scratch.
Her last words had us all hauling ass out of the shop in various directions with various tasks assigned to us. Since the potential location was close to my apartment, I got to go home for a while. Unfortunately, Mark thought it would be cute and witty to send Abigail along with me to keep another trained eye on things. Along with having way more strength than I did, would make her extra useful to have around. Personally, I'm pretty sure he just did it to fuck with me. The prick. Try not let anyone see you, I told her once we got there. I don't feel like explaining why a single middle-aged man is trying to take a little girl up to his crummy apartment.
I'm terribly sorry. Could you say that one more time? It sounded almost like you just told me what to do.
I just mean it might bring us a lot of unwanted attention, you know, given the circumstances. I tried to backpedal.
Just go inside,
she commanded. Okay, no, but wait, I said as I just ran out in front of her. Seriously, I think I might have a thing starting up with the landlord. She's kinda cute in a desperate, miserable sort of way, and I really don't want to have to explain you to her.
Wow, your standards are lower than I expected,
she responded, pushing me aside.
I think that's her now,
she added as I heard the office door creak open. Shit! I yelled as I ran in the direction to shield Abigail from a view. Hey! What's going on? Erically croaked.
Just locking up the office?
She said, rubbing her eyes as she yawned.
What's with the interrogation all of a sudden?
Oh, well, I was wondering if sometime you might want to get something to eat again sometime. I said sometime twice, didn't I? I stammered, trying to keep her eyes on me.
Oh, yeah, sure, why not?
She answered as soon as I saw Abigail's dress disappear around the corner. Ah, well, okay then. I guess we'll do that then. I started slowly walking around her and towards the stairs leading up to my apartment. You couldn't just wait? I barked as we walked through the door.
Oh my, you have a... Why do you have a pet goblin?
She asked when she noticed the thing laying on his back, sliding itself across the floor with its legs. It's more of an involuntary roommate you can't trust around real pets, I said, also watching the little creature continue its path across the apartment. It's kind of like having a toddler that might stab you if you don't feed it fast enough.
A perfect pair, I'm sure.
She quit placing her hands behind her back and strolling around the room as she was inspecting the place.
So, how long are we supposed to be waiting here?
She asked, wiping dust off the top of the counter with her finger. Yeah, Mark said he's got a bunch of people keeping their eyes open for anything screwy. So if something happens and we're close to it, we go find it. Till then, we wait, I explained.
No TV, obviously no books. This is going to be so boring.
She sighed, looking over the whole room once again. Oh my God, stop already! I finally shouted from the table after about 10 minutes of Abigail lying on my bed and thunking her fancy lace boots against the wall. How old are you anyway?
Very.
Really? I complained at the gesture. So how old really? I asked for real that time. They say you've been around for ages or something, right? What's that like? When I asked the question, the thumping suddenly stopped as she thought for a second before cracking a wide grin.
Why so curious?
She asked in return, leaning her head back to look at me. I don't know, the whole paranormal shtick is new to me, you know? She hummed to herself, standing up off the bed.
Are you sure that's what you're thinking about?
She asked, slowly walking my way. What do you mean? I started nervously at the approaching mischievous smile.
Don't act dumb,
she whispered once she reached me at the table.
I'm several hundred years old after all. There's nothing wrong with being curious about a new experience.
She kept pressing as she leaned in closer and closer.
Haven't you ever wondered what it would be like being with someone who looks like me?
Whoa, okay, hell no! What the hell is wrong with you? I yelled, shoving her away from me. What kind of freak do you think I am, lady? God damn! At first, I started to apologize, thinking I really made her cry. But as I leaned down, I could see there were tears of laughter. You're a monster, I growled down at her.
Of course I am,
she said through her cackles. After a while, she tired herself out and let her arms and legs flop down on the apartment floor with another dull thud.
I couldn't help it. I had to know what you do.
That's real messed up, you know.
Yeah, just think about it from my perspective.
What are you talking about?
What do you think it's like, finding a relationship? Think about it for a second. I'm an adult in my head, but look like a 10 or 11-year-old. If I were to find an adult man who finds me attractive in that way, what would that mean about him?
That would be kind of fucked up, I guess, now that I think about it. So what do you do about it?
Nothing anymore, I suppose. Well, I have leveraged this appearance before in the past for financial benefit.
That sounds like you're suggesting you were a... I started to say, but she interrupted.
I was for a little while, till I reached my goal.
That sounds just... awful,
I mumbled. Much more worse than you can imagine. I catered to the worst society could offer. My ability to heal and regrow limbs and organs meant they could do pretty much anything they wanted without consequences.
Like what? No, wait. I asked before I realized I didn't want to know. I told her, throwing my hands up to stop her before she started to answer. Different question. Are you, okay, like up here? I asked, tapping my finger against my head. She shifted in her seat across the table from me for a second before she said anything.
Yes, I suppose. It's been a long time. I've had that antique shop for So long now, It all seems so long ago. But nobody has ever asked me that before. I'm fine. Perhaps lonely, I think, but otherwise okay.
So that's why you're so desperate to hold on to the antique shop. After all, you went through so much to get it.
Makes sense.
After that, we just sat around and talked for a while. It was interesting listening to what someone who had been around for so long had seen and done. A while into it, we started not to hate each other so much. Then my phone started to ring. Oh, I think we got action here, I said, snatching it off the table.
We've got something.
Mark told me from the other end.
A bum spotted a shady guy skulking around your area. I'm texting you the location. What the hell's that noise?
He asked, hearing the sound of the goblin trying to murder a cockroach with one of my shoes. After telling Abigail what was going on and managing to wrestle my other shoe away from the demonic gnome, we started to leave. But as I grabbed the knob, before I opened the door, I stopped to look at Abigail. Hey, so, I was thinking about what you were saying, and how about this? If things don't work out with me and the landlord, maybe I can get past the weirdness and stuff of the whole appearance thing, and we can, try a thing or something.
Yeah? You don't have any, moral problems with that?
She asked curiously. Yeah, I kill people for money. Hell, I helped sell some broad to a monster on my first day on the job. And I really take the high ground and shit about shit anymore. Besides, I have a literal that running around my home. I answered, pointing to the goblin. I'm up to my asshole in weird shit right now. I added, grabbing the bag that held the rifle and equipment Mark gave me. Whoops, almost forgot this.
So if you and her don't... will you consider it? You mean that?
She asked curiously, with a little glimmer of excitement in her eyes. Yeah, sure, I'm not making any other promises. Just that I'll give it the old college try. Just dial back the cuteness. I mean, the old lady personality is one thing I can work with. Also, watch out for the landlady. You're still gonna be one hell of a nightmare to explain for like a million reasons.
Yeah, I know.
No, you stay! She suddenly shouted at the goblin, who slid to a stop and sat with a soft thud as he tried to dash out the door. Of course he listens to you. I sighed as I closed the door behind me. Okay, says we should be able to cut through these trees and end up right where he saw the guy. I shouted over to Abigail as she was jogging through the woods up behind the apartments. Mark said we were looking for a guy in all black with a gut. Yeah, that's helpful. We waited at the edge of the trees for a while, hoping he'd pass by eventually. But it didn't seem like it was going to happen. So we finally crept out and tried to find anything that might get us on the right track. Hey, you don't have a super sense of smell or something that can help us find this guy by any chance, do you?
I'm not a dog.
Before I could say anything back, we heard a woman scream in the distance before a car slammed shut. That might be something, I suggested, looking down at her. You think? She shouted back, sprinting in the direction of the sounds. But soon after, we saw a dumpy-looking guy fly past us in a white car. Shit, we need a ride! I yelled, trying to figure something out. A few seconds later, another car rolled up to a stop next to us. That might work! I ran over to the driver's side, Abigail close behind. Thinking quick, I grabbed her in one arm and pulled my pistol, pressing the barrel to her head. Out of the car or I'll blow her fucking brains out! Move! Move! I shouted at the driver. Who does this kind of thing? This is supposed to be California! The traumatized woman screamed as she clawed her way out of the car in panic. Guess she never played Grand Theft Auto. I said to myself as me and Abigail both climbed in.
You're a psychopath. You know that, right?
Abigail asked me as we sped down the road.
She's probably scarred for life.
I didn't have time to be polite. I explained myself, finally seeing the fleeing car in the distance. Where's this asshole going? I asked myself as he veered into what looked like an abandoned warehouse. Once he made the turn, I switched the headlights off and followed behind him, down the short wooden path to the back of the building. Here, text Mark and tell him where we are. Then set it to silent. I said, handing her my phone. Don't text and drive, kids. This public service announcement brought to you by the Educational Foundation of telling people they aren't as good at driving as they think they are.
Okay, I just sent it, but it might be up to us to stop him from finishing the ritual. I don't think they'll get here in time,
she said as she handed my phone back.
Look, he's stopping.
she added, pointing at the car's brake lights in the distance. Okay, time to suit up, I thought to myself once we stopped. I grabbed the bag out of the back seat and slid the vest on before grabbing the rifle and clambering around. You ready? I asked her over the screams in front of us. I'm over here. Oh. Fuck, it's dark out here, I complained, turning my face to the voice behind me. Here, hold my hand, I'll lead you there. She told me as I felt a small, abnormally strong hand wrap around my wrist. Then she started dragging me along behind her. Once we got closer, we could see the man who was in the car dragging the unconscious woman along behind him. But then, I noticed he was walking up to meet someone who was waiting for him under the occasionally flickering light attached to the outside wall of the warehouse. He was a taller, slender guy who was wearing all black. But he had an old-style hat, like what's-his-name wears in that Breaking Bad show, and black circle-framed glasses. At night. What do you think that is? I asked Abigail as I saw him, ducking behind a nearby bush. I don't know, but I've got a bad feeling about him. So what do we do now? Thinking for a second, I just took a deep breath and said, Fuck it, just follow my lead, as I stood up from behind the bush. Alright, asshole, step away from the woman. Hands where I can see him, sunglasses.
You seem to have been followed.
Sunglasses' deep, unsettling voice oozed at the other guy, who just looked at us in confusion at the situation. I said hands! I yelled at him again as I moved it, keeping him in the sights. I could hear Abigail's footsteps next to me as we got closer and closer. Abby, if anything happens, go with the tall guy. I'll deal with Beer Gut and try to drag the girl away. Okay, she said as we were almost on top of them. But at that moment, the chubby guy made a move towards the woman. So out of reflex, I popped a few rounds off, catching his shoulder, causing him to run towards the car. As soon as that happens, Abigail lunged at the tall guy, so fast I could hardly see what happened until he swatted it to the side with one hand, sending her small body slamming into the side of the building. He then leaned down and picked her up off the ground by the hair while she was still rattled by the impact, drawing a curved blade of a knife out from behind his jacket and placing it under her neck.
Drop the rifle and kick it over,
he instructed me, not even once slightly changing in volume or tone.
Pistol 2. It wouldn't bother me to see this disgusting thing's head off.
She's a vampire, buddy. That wouldn't work out so well for you this time. I said, keeping my rifle leveled.
You think so, do you?
He said, placing the flat of the knife up against her neck, where it began to sear her skin like it was 1,000 degrees or something. Okay, okay! I shouted as she screamed in pain. Doing what he said as I slid the strap over my head and placed the rifle on the ground along with my pistol before kicking them both in his direction. Now let it go.
Why? You don't have any leverage to be making any demands right now. Also, I can't have this thing running around loose causing trouble for me. No, better to do away with her now and get it over with.
Wait! I started to shout when I saw his hand start to move, but I was stopped by a voice from behind me. Drop! I hit the dirt as Mark fired several rounds as he circled around from the side of the building, hearing the plink of the bullets hitting the metal siding. Sunglasses tossed Abigail in my direction and made for the car. Mark tried to catch him a few more shots, but he was way faster than he looked for his age. Shots hissed by the car and the door slammed shut and the man floored it down the back alley of the warehouse, leaving the pudgy guy to try running after him.
Wait, don't leave me here with them!
He begged as he tripped over his feet trying to catch up, but he wasn't anywhere close. Once he stopped, I saw his eyes jump from me to the pistol on the ground. Don't you? I tried to shout, but he jumped on top of it before I could do anything. Next thing I knew, the barrel was in his mouth, and he pulled the trigger.
Son of a bitch,
Mark complained, walking up beside me.
Well, guess I don't get to interrogate him,
he added, pulling out his phone and snapping a photo.
Hey, glad you two shitheads could finally grace us commoners with your presence,
he said once he saw Chris and Johnny coming around the back.
Too late, you missed all the fun. We're leaving. You okay there, Miss Abigail?
He asked as he joined the rest of us. I'm okay, she answered, rubbing the scorch spot on her neck. What about her? She asked, pulling my shirt with one hand and pointing to the still unconscious woman with the other. She'll wake up eventually, I told her. What? How's this my problem? I already saved her life. I committed a carjacking for her, I protested to her.
What if some perverts find her back here?
God damn it! Are you gonna help me get her into the van or what?
I complained walking over to the woman.
Yeah, that's just one of them. We still know who the other guy is, though. Yeah. If we hear anything back, we'll let you know.
Mark spoke into his phone before hanging up. By then, we were all back at the shop and we were gathered around the table.
Well, guys, I think we looked out on this one, but things worked out good enough. Nobody we cared about died, and that's what really matters.
Mark said, sitting down on an old plastic lawn chair.
But this book thing, I think we should take it to Tom. See what he thinks about it. Until then, it stays under lock and key here at the shop.
He instructed.
Now that we got that all cleared up, Louis, you got an errand after you drop off Miss Abigail.
He said, tossing a wrinkled, rolled-up paper bag onto the table that had been sitting under the chair.
Drop it off and bring the money back here. Take the van this time.
He added, tossing me the keys. No rest for the wicked, I guess, he said with a laugh, picking up the bag and starting out the door. But before I could leave, Mark stopped me again.
Hold on, these are for you. You earned them.
He said, holding out a box for me to take. When I opened the lid, the first thing I saw was a black bowler hat, like the ones him, Chris, and Johnny wore all the time. Taking it out and sitting it on the table, I saw a gray-looking something underneath it. Once I pulled it out, I could tell it was a long, plaid gray sweater, just like Mark's red one and Johnny and Chris's green and blue ones.
You're a real part of the team. I don't got any doubts about being able to count on you. So, officially, welcome to Dirty Work Inc., the one and only Paranormal Mafia.
And they all lived criminally ever after. The end.